Yeah, I guess we can talk more about your girlfriend. This is, I feel like it's a massive topic that everyone is interested in. I mean, having a Japanese girlfriend to begin with is kind of, I feel like, an ideal of many people in the community.
Language learning ideal.
Yeah, language learning ideal.
I mean, yeah, there definitely is an aspect of that. But I mean, to the interesting kind of thing for me is that the idea that if you're learning a language, you should like date somebody who's a native speaker is like a really common old idea that like everyone always says. And I always thought that it was kind of like not actually very good advice. And I guess I still kind of think that if you're not already like, if you haven't achieved basic fluency yet, but if you have like achieved basic fluency, then I think it's like, it probably is like one of the most powerful things you can do to kind of supercharge your language learning experience, just because you get all the benefits of like having friends that like native speaker friends, but it's like even to the next level because of course of actual intimate relationship is so much more intimate, right? So it's like you probably talk to them way more, you do way more stuff with them, and then I mean, yeah, there's obviously the benefits on the very practical level, like, oh, you get lots of practice, you know? But I think also from like a cultural level, you know, when you're that close to another like human being, of course you influence each other so much. And so it's like it's one of the best ways to get like a really close window into the culture, because, you know, you're like getting just so close with somebody who's like from that culture. But another thing is, of course, a lot of times we talk about Japanese culture as if it's like one single monolithic thing, when in reality, every Japanese person is different. And this is actually, in general, is like a kind of weird problem that I've felt for a while, is that, you know, when you're speaking Japanese, you don't like, or to take a step back, like in English, you know, there's certain ways of talking, for example, that sound like cool or intelligent. And there's other ways of talking that sound kind of, you know, uneducated or unintelligent or dumb, or just like kind of maybe even cringy, right? To certain people. And so if you're learning a language, then whether you're learning English or Japanese, of course, there's Japanese people who most Japanese people think are cringy, and there's Japanese people who most Japanese people think are like cool. So of course, if you're learning a language, you want to learn how to talk in a way that is cool, and not kawaii. No, I'm just kidding. But in a way, it's hard to figure out like what exactly is cool. Like who should I imitate when I speak Japanese? Who should I make my parent, and who should I avoid? There's no easy answer for this, because every Japanese person you ask is going to give you a different answer, because every Japanese person has like different sensibilities. And I found like hanging out with Japanese people that like there's kind of like different like subcategories of Japanese people, and they can be like really different. Like there's certain Japanese people that like might think a certain word or a certain fashion or a certain genre of music or something is like really cool. And then there might be there's like a whole other subculture of Japanese people who think that same, you know, fashion or whatever is like really lame and like wouldn't want to go near it. And so because there's all these like conflicting like sub pockets of the culture, how do you decide which one you're going to like make your home base? Like, how do you decide which one actually is cool to you and which one you're going to avoid? Because you can't just look it up in the dictionary, right? And like figure out what it is. There is no right answer, right? It is kind of all relative and subjective. And so an interesting kind of solution to this problem is actually to, you know, have a significant other who's a native speaker of the target language. Because, I mean, if you actually like, and of course all this, you have to like keep in mind, of course, I'm not saying you should like date someone just because they're Japanese or something. You have to actually, you know, like them. But if you find a native speaker of your target language who you like actually really vibe with and really like and get along with and just like are really attracted to, then that's probably a good person to kind of you can make your home base in terms of your like sensibilities in the culture. Because, I mean, hey, at least you vibe with them, right? So if you vibe with them, then you're probably going to vibe with their whole worldview, like within the culture. So I know like for me, if there's like something where maybe my girlfriend thinks like, oh no, don't say that. That sounds cringy. Then you say that. Even if there's other people who think that sounds cool, well, maybe in general, by default, I'll just kind of like go with her sensibility and her kind of like worldview, because, it's a way, first of all, at a practical level, it's a way to kind of have a consistent worldview. If you're always referencing one person, then at least your kind of whole sensibilities will be consistent. And also it's like at least a way to get something that will probably work well for you because you vibe with the person, so you're probably going to vibe with like their worldview. So there's kind of all these interesting like kind of like cultural implications of, you know, dating someone who speaks your target language in this way, where I feel like my girlfriend has been like a door into Japanese culture that is like way more like that has like helps me get way more connected to Japanese culture, at least one version of Japanese culture than I ever like had before with just friends, you know, normal friends.